All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is CCC Conversations, normally with Bob and Noel, but they are in Costa Rica celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Co-Creators Convergence. And since I wasn't able to be there, I got the honor of filling in for our Thursday night conversation. Tonight we have Shayla Paradeis talking about the footprint of a heart. I believe that's the name of her book, actually. And before that, I just want to do a little introduction of CCC. For those who may not be familiar, it is the Co-Creators Convergence. And we are here every Thursday night. And now I want to introduce, as I said, our speaker this evening is Shayla Paradeis. But before we introduce her, I'd like to introduce Rita Marsh. And Rita is a retired RN and family nurse practitioner whose varied career in nursing introduced her to many aspects of human suffering. She was a founding member of Davi Nikent, now known as the Center for Human Flourishing, in 2003. The lives she encountered and their influence on her life catapulted her into her own journey of seeking balance in life. She found the integral health model to be a guiding influence and is excited to share the information, practices, and hopeful inspiration with others. So Rita, I hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Rita Shay. Thanks for the warm welcome to the Co-Creators Convergence. And I must say it's such a pleasure to bring another guest to the audience here. And as you said, we're in Carbondale, Colorado, and the Center for Human Flourishing is at the 3rd Street Center, which is revamped public school. And we host presenters here. And Shayla has been a presenter with our organization. But I have to go back to when I met her. And that was almost a year ago at a lovely gathering around Christmas time. Mateo, her partner, who she had just met, had invited people from the community to come and sing carols together. And I love to sing, but I'm shy about it. And I was sitting, and this lovely young woman sat next to me, and we chatted a bit, and then the singing started. And I thought, my gosh, this woman has the voice of an angel. And so I'll try to sing quietly, but I found that we could harmonize, and it was such a delight to be in her presence. And we've continued growing our friendship since that time. And tonight, Shayla is here to talk about the book that she wrote, Footprint of a Heart, her journeys of walking up and down continents, up and down trails. And it really is a journey of transformation that she's going to tell you about. And I just invite you to sit back and listen. I've asked Shayla to open up with a piece from her book. It's an invitation. So Shayla, I'm so glad to be here with you.
Thank you, Rita. I am so glad to be invited here. And thank you, Raina Shea, for facilitating today, and to the whole convergence. It's wonderful to be a part of this. Yeah, so I've been asked to do a specific reading to start us off, sort of meant to be like a meditation or just a grounding experience. So, and then I was really honored that Rita said, well, you have that in your book. So, so I'm going to read a poem called Host and just invite you to drop in. And it's an honor to be here with you all. Here we go. Host. June 27th, 2021. Invite it all. Invite the discomfort, the messy, even the icky. Invite the exposed, the embarrassing, and the not so graceful. Invite the miscalculation, the unrealistic, and the sass. Invite the dramatic, the poor form, and don't forget the hypocritical. You might as well laugh. Do more than laugh. Enjoy it. I'd say invite the ego, but it already invited itself. Rather, treat it nicely. Give it a seat at the table like anyone else. Invite fear. Be kind to it. It never meant to hurt anything. It loves you a great deal, more than it can stand sometimes. Invite the ache. In fact, give the ache the comfiest chair. Keep its drink full and hang on its words. This is your guest of honor. We owe this whole party to the ache. It's the emptiness we fill, where art is put on canvas, where songs are born, the place where we are raw. Invite the blood. It's full of life, edgy, inarguably real. Be a good host. Invite it all. Maybe courage will show up. I hear it loves a good party. Maybe wisdom will recognize the opportunity. Maybe peace will be drawn to the gathering. Maybe. Outside, the owl is watching, content, full of love. Invite it all. It's good to be here.
Thank you, Shayla. That was so beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, and welcome everyone in the audience.
Yeah, welcome. This has been really fun to see who's popping in, and a lot of these are friends, and I so appreciate your presence. I'm just going to do about a 45-minute presentation talking about the book Footprint of a Heart, and just telling my story a bit in what I believe to be my unique gifts for shifting humanity. And I'm so honored to be here, so thank you. And then I'm very happy to take questions, so don't hold back if you want to chat in. I believe that Raina Shea is sort of keeping her eyes on that, and I am happy to be interrupted. So, so, so if you have a burning question, feel free to type it in, and I'm happy to sidestep the flow to answer any questions. Thank you. So yeah, my name is Shayla Paradeis. I grew up in central Minnesota. I have some friends here from Brainerd today, so I'm really happy to see them. Or not see them, but know that they're here. I grew up in Brainerd, Minnesota, and I went to school for musical theater when I was 18. I moved to Manhattan, to New York City, and I was sort of in a grind of what I thought was expected of me, of what I was supposed to look like, how I was supposed to behave. But I was really drawn to musical theater. That was a very beautiful and real connection for me. And I understand now that what it was really about is the study of being human. And I got into musical theater when I was 7 years old because I wanted to change the world. And I believed that that was how it was done. and then I went to New York City right out of high school, and found myself in these things that didn't really resonate with what I believed to be most important. And a lot of my teaching was about image, and it was about money, and it was about these things that I just really couldn't give a hoot about. And so I was kind of standing there feeling separated from my body. Like I was in this studio in New York City, but in my mind's eye, my heart's eye, I was in Montana, which is the place I fell in love with when I was 14. And it just felt like lush and full living when I first went there. And so eventually a day came where I went to an audition in New York City. I was number 907 in line of all young women my age, all wearing pretty much the same dress, preparing our 16 bars of music. And it was 6 a.m, and I was still number 900 in line. And something in me just cracked while I was standing in that hallway. And I said to myself, this is not the life I want to live. And I turned around and walked out the door and basically started making moves to Glacier National Park, Montana. So I moved to Montana when I was 21 and got a job at Lake McDonald Lodge, and promptly fell in love with hiking. And all the energy that I had put into being so serious about musical theater and like doing everything the way teacher told me, all of that energy just went right into being myself in the woods. And I felt so alive and so wonderful. And before I knew it, I had hiked 500 miles in that first summer while working a full-time waitressing job. And then I came back again the next summer and I hiked 930 miles and had a full-time job as well, and started volunteering part-time for the Park Service, and just like realized that no amount of being committed to time outdoors felt like too much. And it was in that summer that somebody put a book in my hands called A Walk in the Woods and told me about through hiking the Appalachian Trail. And I had never heard of it before that point. And as soon as I understood that there was a place where you could walk all summer long, I just knew that I had to do it. It was just a matter of when and how exactly is that going to happen. And about 2 years later, I set out for my first through hike. I was 24 years old, and I headed out on the Appalachian Trail, which is a hike that goes, in my case, I started in Georgia on the southern boundary and hiked to Maine. It's 2,181 miles back in 2011 when I hiked it. It goes through 14 states. And it's Appalachia, the oldest mountains in the world. And they're also very steep and easy to underestimate. Since they've crumbled so much from being so old, we don't often think of them as challenging, but they are extremely challenging. It's very steep, and very buggy, very humid, very, very difficult in certain places. And I set out on this hike, not really realizing that you go to the woods thinking that you can get away from culture, or that you can kind of step outside of these things that have been trapping you. Or that was my perspective as a 24-year-old, all these concepts of who I had to be and how. And what did not occur to me my entire first through hike is that I couldn't get away from every pushy voice because of this one. So here I am, walking as hard as I can and as fast as I can from Georgia to Maine, and pushing myself to prove that I'm a somebody after feeling like I had failed in musical theater. And I really hiked the entire hike that way. I lost 26 pounds. There was a lot of joy. There were a lot of things that I was learning about through hiking culture, like people taking care of strangers in a phenomenon known as trail magic, where they feed you and invite you into their homes. And there really was a lot of generosity and a lot of kindness. And I wasn't ignorant to that, but I just hadn't fully seen the voice inside my head that was still kind of beating me up, that I could not get away from. And I hiked as fast as I possibly could. I did the whole hike in 4 months and 4 days. My body was exhausted, and my mental state was not present. I just kind of had a smell the barn effect for the last quarter of the trail, which is 500 miles, for the last 500 miles through New England, which is beautiful and special. I just kept my head down and hiked as much as I could every day, which ended up being about 30 miles a day. And my body was so tired, and I would wake up in cold sweats, but I got it done quickly and got back to Montana and got back to what I thought was my life. And the real moment, the real gift of through hiking and how it nestled my heart happened then, when I wrote this. This is called Reflections. August 23rd, 2011. It's been 2.5 weeks since I completed the journey. I'm having a hard time putting into words how I feel. It's strange to spend time in a vehicle, to watch the miles and states roll by. It erased my hard work, like I spent months winding up a ball of yarn, and all at once it unraveled. I cried the other day when I realized the sun had gone down without me noticing. Losing daylight in the woods was significant, and it certainly never went unnoticed. Sadder still is how it all seemed like a wild, fanciful dream. The journey changed me. I'm such a feeler now. I feel closer to my loved ones and to people I don't even know, as though every exchange has become more significant. On the road trip back from the Appalachian Trail, I felt many things. Sore, for one, from my lack of butt padding, an issue I've never experienced before, and from sitting still after many months of moving forward. I was sad to be driving away from New England and the trail itself. It felt like the end of a good relationship, as if the trail was a friend of mine that I may never see again. When I got to Pittsburgh to visit my brother, I went for a short morning walk and looked all around me at the buildings, the people, the cars, and the trees. I felt in tune, like my eyes were good and open. I noticed my heart beating in my chest and my tired feet aching slightly against the pavement. I started grinning at each person that walked by as though I held a secret. I did. I was the luckiest person alive for my beating heart and my aching feet. It's hard to accept how quickly the AT has melted out of my life, though not completely. I was sad when my final scabs rubbed off my shins, and though weight gain is a good thing, I'll miss my bones. I've never been so well acquainted with them. That was the body of a thru hiker, direct proof of the struggle and commitment and longevity and sacrifice. I lost 18% of my body. Driving back to Montana was almost too easy. I didn't get bored or tired. I've gotten accustomed to being alone with my thoughts. Even as I write this, I feel glad to have time again, to reminisce and pay respect to my journey. Like my consciousness is my best buddy, and I haven't spent much time with her lately. I learned so much. The biggest being about bravery, which I think means having faith. It means believing that you can go on, even if you're scared out of your mind, even when you think you've got nothing left. It's approaching the world with an open heart and widespread arms, not because you're fearless and not because you're naive, but because you choose to believe that life is good, that people are good, and that you've got everything you need right there with you. So, yeah, that was the end of my first thru hike, and one of the major moments where it really occurred to me what a blessing it is to not just be able to walk, to be strong-bodied, to have all your ducks in a row to make it happen, but also just that there is a trail, one continuous trail, like a monumental effort of humanity to make available the space where one can walk and let the forest do its thing. So, so with that token, I carried on to life, and or that which some call life, and I thought, okay, I'm 24 now. It's time to grow up and get a real job. And I went to the University of Montana. I signed up for I signed up for a program called Health and Human Performance, thinking there was some adult way to be an adventurer. So I went and did that, and I did not last. I made it through one semester and realized that I was learning so much out on the trail, and that was really what my heart was calling me to do. And so I should say also, my family went through some struggles in that time. One of my siblings came down with what was diagnosed as schizophrenia at the time, which came completely out of the blue. And I was already kind of struggling with trying to figure out where I was going to go in life. And then there's this phenomenon known as post-trail depression. I wrote a little bit about it here. Post-trail depression, PTD, is a common term among distance hikers. It is a seemingly unavoidable imbalance, likely chemical, though in my eyes it was pure heart. When life was once rainfall and pine needles, what do you make of Netflix and silicone? How do you explain yourself? At the tables of friends and family, how do you relate? I sat surrounded by questions about statistics. I had answers, a million of them, but none of them answered me. And a lot of the questions just around what am I going to do with my life? And if I found something that resonates with me, but it doesn't necessarily fit with society's expectations of me, how am I going to navigate that? And also questions about what we call mental illness. And even just like the term of calling it an illness in the first place. I found it really heartbreaking at that walk of life to watch a dear loved one get labeled, and the label kept changing. It changed 4 different times. And so I was like, why do we do this? Why do we have to give this a name if we're not even, if 2 physicians aren't even going to agree? upon any given one. Like it just doesn't seem healthy. And so much of what I wanted for my sibling was just for them to be loved and supported and accepted. And the hardest part of what was going on was that I didn't see as much of that as I would have liked to see. And now I have this like existential question, and I'm trying to figure out my own life. and it became evident that another through hike was what I needed. So I declared it and stepped out 2 years later to go hike the Pacific Crest Trail. The Pacific Crest Trail runs along the western seaboard, along the high Sierras and the Cascade Mountains. And I went south to north for that trail as well. So starting on the Mexican border of California, hiking through all of California, and then through all of Oregon and all of Washington, and finishing on the border of Canada and Washington. The Pacific Crest Trail is glorious. It goes through 7 different national parks, a lot of wilderness areas, including the Ansel Adams Wilderness. It's really just like glorious beauty, one right after another. And I enjoyed it so much. It was a treasure to me because having understood from my first hike that there's an opportunity to really be there. And I came up with this mantra, be where your feet are. And I just really sank into that and started to understand myself as a critter who belonged in the woods. And I'd often find myself with my feet posted up on a rock for my breakfast break, drinking hot coffee that I cook on my little stove over a mountain vista, like, watching the beautiful colors of the sunrise. And I would just look around and think, wow, this is my life. And it could have been the subway and the grind of New York City. And instead I made these choices, and now I get to live like this. And I just felt overwhelmed and blessed to be alive. And the only pinging feelings that I would get about being out there were just sometimes feeling a little bit guilty that I wasn't there for my family as much as they might need me to be, with all of them going through a hard time with my sibling. And I have 3 siblings and 2 parents, and I love all 5 of them very much. We're very close. And so I just kind of had what I sort of equated to survival's guilt, that I'm out here so free and healthy and happy. And then what about them? And that would sometimes catch up to me and be sad. But I started to realize that my sadness brought this opportunity to be a human and to connect with other humans. And as soon as I started to acknowledge that I was sad about that which we call mental illness, other hikers had a similar story. Some of it was their own struggles. Some of it was a sibling or a parent or a best friend or a spouse. And the room just lit up and came back down. And then there were a lot of struggles with cancer, or a lot of struggles with death or PTSD. And I started to realize the opportunity, once sort of allowing yourself to become raw, the way that the wilderness can do. The next step, as soon as you make eye contact with another human being, is to relate. And there was so much beauty in that, this opportunity to relate to fellow humans, and to acknowledge that we're all walking our hearts to health, to safety, to belonging. And a real beauty opened up with that, where I started to have a lot of life-changing one-on-one conversations with individuals out there. I hiked alone, but every now and then I would walk beside somebody and we would really talk. And it was glorious. And then 3 days before the finish, I was in a town in northern Washington called Stehekin, where I got news that my older sister had been diagnosed with cancer. I had 60 miles to go on the trail, and had just found out from a phone call that she starts chemo the day after tomorrow, and it's real serious. She has to go through a year of chemotherapy, and she was 29 years old, so I was pretty caught off guard. And I wanted to leave the trail. I was like, okay, I'm on my way. I'm on the next boat out of Stehekin, which is a town that doesn't have roads to it. So it had to be a boat. And I was starting to make moves to do so. And then my dad called the general store and got on the phone and said, finish the trail. And my whole family was in the hospital beside my sister, and all piped in and said, yeah, keep walking. Like, we're going to be going through this for a year. Enjoy your last few days of hiking. And something about that moment really helped me understand that there is, we're all connected. And it's especially apparent to me with my family, and that like there's an opportunity for one to really be in joy in a way that it can be shared with others. And I feel that way right now politically. I feel like there is a lot of suffering out there, but we're all one family. And so at times like these, we need to love and feel joy like it's our job. And I tried to do that for the last few days of the Pacific Crest Trail. And it was glorious. It was beautiful. And when I got back from the trail, I went through sort of like a bargaining phase of just wishing I could be in the woods forever. And this is what I wrote. It's called Kicking and Screaming, September 28th, 2013. I'm back in the world now, trying to make it fit, trying to keep the wild in my eyes and the peace in my heart, trying not to cry. I think of nature, not the woods specifically, not the mountains either, but all of it, the big everything. I hope that I can hold on to it, take it with me. So little needs to be explained in the woods. I don't have an urge to make anything at all understood. How refreshing that has been. How well taken care of I've felt at home. I have no words for so many of the things I felt out there, or the things I feel now. How can you be a human without needing to be understood? Next to the raging waters, I felt loved. Against the trees, accepted. Respected by the other creatures. And it's not that I need people less. It's more than ever. Friends, family, and strangers alike. I can't feel anything but love for all of them. I wish I could share what I've gained in a way that they could gain it too. I don't want life to be any less profound than it feels right now. I'm scared, not of being unimportant, but of assigning things the wrong importance. I'm fearful of closing in any way. I'm full of dread for the misunderstandings. I miss the trail. So I went back to Minnesota a lot to be with family for the next year and a half. And between having the one sibling kind of going in and out of sort of psychoses, and then another sibling going through such a steady blasting of chemotherapy, it was a pretty hard year and a half. And but we got through it. My family is really quite amazing, and today they're both doing well, which is amazing. In fact, my sister, who went through all of that chemo, has 5 children, which is remarkable after a year of chemotherapy. It's really quite miraculous. But it was a challenging time. And after coming down from that hike to all of those family struggles, I took my time to consider another through hike and asked my family's permission to go out on the next big journey, because in through hiking culture, there's this trifecta of trails: the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and then the Continental Divide, that is known as the Triple Crown, to do all three. And if you've done two, a lot of people ask, like, when are you going to do number 3? And number 3 is a doozy. The Continental Divide Trail doesn't have designated routes for the entirety. So it can be anywhere between 2,400 miles and say 3,200 miles, depending on which routes you choose. It's not well marked. It's not, it's not fully designated. A lot of it is point-to-point navigation, which means, like, rather than there being a trail under your feet that you can clearly see, you might be walking across a mountaintop looking for a pole sticking out of the ground. And then you go towards the direction of wherever you see the next pole. So you're kind of like scanning the horizon for sort of bobbing and weaving back and forth of what your route is. And it can be challenging not to know exactly where you're going. And it's also the Rocky Mountains. This trail starts on the boot heel. If you're south to north, which I was, you start on the boot heel of New Mexico. You walk across all of New Mexico, all of Colorado. So we're talking like high alpine, like 14,000 feet. And that means a lot of hail and threats of hypothermia. There's also a lot of stream crossings that are hard to get through, and especially me being 5'3" and choosing to hike alone most of the time, there's, you could get washed down. A river, you definitely get lost. And I definitely got lost a lot of times. So I asked my family if they trusted me and felt comfortable with me going on this journey, and overwhelmingly they were supportive, and I'm very lucky to have them and for them to believe in me. And I set out to hike in 2015 and got through the first state, New Mexico, and at this time I was 28. So I'm sort of in this zone of life that some refer to as the Saturn return, which I think is a messy time for all, well, for most people. Maybe not everybody, but for many people, it can be a messy time. And for me, it certainly was. And I was having so much decompression of what I had been through with my family, and then sort of like existential issues with how things are done. Like any self-righteous 28-year-old. So I spent a lot of time raging with the rivers and the hail. And I really feel like the CDT and I were a good match for each other. And here's a post about it. This is called New Mexico, You Magnificent Bastard. This is May 21st, 2015. Marvelous New Mexico, what can I say? In 1 month, I've had more boat rocking experiences than an entire summer in Glacier or my other 2 through hikes combined. I've never been hailed on so much or with so much gusto. Never crossed a river so many times, 167 times, the same river. Never been lost so often. Never had to pitch my tent early in the evening to get out of the elements, and woke up to crashes of thunder and a caved-in tent with pounds of heavy snow on my chest. Never drank water quite that color. Never actually yelled, "That's enough!" at the wind and rain like a pissed off child. I can't believe there's one state with all these things, from low desert to over 11,000 feet. You have reshaped me, New Mexico. Thank you. Thank you for the sun on the mesa, the painted rock, the turquoise water of the rushing stream, the cacti in bloom. Thank you for the many canyons connecting the way, the caves, the alpine, the humble towns opening to us dirty hikers. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the opportunities to get found, for leading me home and teaching me along the way. I'm in Ghost Ranch tonight, milling about within rock structures and reflecting on my walk. In the last week, I have had it handed to me. Tonight, I'm clean, dry, and aware of being alive. Yeah, so it was a mess, but a very good one. And when I got just beyond the point where that post was written, I came to the border of Colorado and was met with the announcement that it is 100% snowpack from that point north for the entire state of Colorado. So I did what's called flip-flopping and rented a car with a few other hikers and went all the way up to Helena, Montana. I don't think I told you guys where the trail keeps going. Sorry. It goes through Colorado and then Wyoming. And then it straddles the border of Montana, Idaho before turning into Montana and going straight north and finishing in Glacier National Park, Montana, which was my home at the time and just my love. So I was so excited to be walking home. And then when I flip-flopped, that romance of walking home bit the dust. And now I'm suddenly hiking south in this fragmented sort of like Pac-Man collect all the dots way of getting across the Continental Divide Trail. And it was challenging logistically. It was challenging emotionally. The trail itself was challenging anyway. And I just struggled and thought about quitting all the time and had so many conversations with myself about whether I really needed to do it. Because I had already proven to myself that I can walk across countries, and I was less curious and fascinated by that. And then what's even more is that there was like this overlaying expectation of myself that I had to do this because I said I would, or because I did the other miles. And it took me out of the moment, out of being present. And I would push as hard as I could to do about 30 miles a day. And in this case, it's borderline necessary to do so on the Continental Divide Trail. If you want to complete the entire thing before the snow flies, then you do have to keep an average of 25 to 30 miles a day. And some of that terrain was challenging, and I just wasn't feeling it. And those hiking buddies that I rented the car with, they're wonderful men, and I wanted a really different experience than they did. And it was after about a month of us hiking together, maybe 6 weeks, that I decided that I wanted to break away from the group and go hike by myself. And out on the CDT, very few thru hikers in 2015 were out there. So choosing to be by yourself is a different kind of alone than, say, on the Appalachian Trail. It's like I'm going to vast, untamed wilderness by myself. But it really felt important, and it felt like time. And I knew something really beautiful was about to happen that was going to be life-changing, to say the least. And so I decided to hitchhike from central Wyoming all the way down to that border of New Mexico and Colorado to hike north. And at least I'd be going north now in the direction of Glacier. So, and by myself, which felt good. And I stuck out my thumb in Lander, Wyoming, with an 800-mile hitchhike ahead of me. And something really magical happened. And here it is. Climbing into the passenger seat of an SUV on a July day changed my life, for it was the first time I paid full attention to what happens when two generous souls share a journey. We saw a friend and picked up where we left off, never mind the fact that we were strangers. His name was Dan Abernathy. He's a large man physically, for the sake of definition, but more so by spirit. With his loose flowing pants and his long gray hair sticking out of a straw hat, I felt welcomed by the sight of him. Or was it something his eyes were putting out? It doesn't really matter. As soon as I climbed in, we were partners on a journey. He belly laughed at my admitted insecurity. People in my life have careers and business plans. They have goals and clubs and 401ks, and me, I'm just walking. He loved it. I'll make that decision 10 times more on the wings of how truly glad he was for who I am and how I shared it. It's an honor to be seen. He told me about his heartbreak, losing his baby sister to cancer. We cried together for our sisters and their suffering. He inspired me to write and gave me a signed copy of one of his poetry books, I Don't Shave on Sundays. Then wished me luck and drove off. I looked around at the ground I stood on, feeling carried. I continued to be carried. Cracked open now, I stuck out my thumb. Beautiful people helped me cross that distance, one right after another. When I jumped out of a man named Warren's vehicle in Chama, New Mexico, the next evening, it was as though I had landed softly in a gas station parking lot by a gently rolling tidal wave. I've never felt so inspired. 11 times climbing into the passenger door, 11 strangers handing me off, sharing their stories, and opening their hearts. As soon as I checked into my hotel room, I wrote this. Hitch, July 23rd, 2015. Go and cry with a stranger. Do it in their car. Get in their car, completely in. Take your heart out and put it in their teeth and listen. Listen to them say they work too hard. Listen to them say they're underpaid. Hear them geek out on how their truck works. Let them crack you open a bud, even if you think it's yucky. Listen to them talk about the land they love and the wife they lost. That they can't seem to find love or make it stay. Listen to the way death scares them. Relate to them, admitting that as women in our late 20s, we're turning into mothers, whether we want to admit it or not. Let them tell you you're courageous. Let them lecture you on how you're crazy. Listen to them talk about how hard it is to control their teenager or run their business, about how they'd kill for their mama, about being there when the Berlin Wall came down, about how they got in trouble and cleaned themselves up, how your health is everything, how family is everything, how they lost their daughter and granddaughter in a plane crash in Alaska. Listen to how they believe there is good in all of us, though it can be hard to see. Listen to them speak of holding their baby sister in their arms as she slips away. Talk about cancer. Talk about being someone's sibling. Talk about being in the room with death and how it was beautiful and sad and cry. Tell them the truth. Tell them you're scared too. Show them you're alive. And then they'll walk with you always. So that was the most precious, memorable, really sort of turning point of all of my hiking endeavors, and just really drove home the truth I already knew, but maybe wasn't living fully, is that we're all a family. And yeah, it was just beautiful. And it really gave me this opportunity to claim what through hiking meant to me, which is presence and simplicity and celebrating what you have. And I finished that hike. I actually missed a few miles on purpose because I realized that concept of earning my triple crown didn't mean anything to me. So I let it go and went to hike in the Tetons instead of staying on the trail. So I gave up the crown. and I got to the end in Glacier. I saved the last 300 miles for Glacier, and just got to the end and looked south, and I actually had a moment of being like, I did it. Here I am. Like, where's my grand prize? Or, like, what do I get for doing it? And of course there was nothing. You get nothing. And isn't that wonderful? And so, like, as soon as I realized how ridiculous I was being, I just broke into laughter and tears, and it was just so happy. And it really felt like I could hear the mountains laughing at me, that this journey you've been on to find something outside of yourself is cute, because it's all in you. so, so that was quite a gift. And if you guys are up for it, I'm gonna sing a song. I have a guitar here. So. And I'm gonna plug in this microphone to make it sound better. This is called Walked 1,000 Miles. Well, I walked 1,000 miles and I tried to shut my brain off. Didn't have a moment of success. So I took it to the river and I asked to shut the pain off. But all the river said was yes. Just yes. And I said, how do you walk when you feel broken? How do you hold the memory still? How do you show the world in words that can't be spoken? She said, darling, just will. So I walked another 1,000 miles. I tried to keep the rain off. Tree to tree and cave to cave. I gave up on comfort because I thought it might take some strain off. And the purple mountain told me I was brave. Brave. And I said, you can't lose what was never yours. You can't win because it's not a game. And you don't get to go around closing doors, because my darling, we're the same. I walked another 1,000 miles, couldn't help the laughter. Couldn't tell where it stopped and I began. If it only took 3,000 miles to find what I was after, sign me up to start it all again. And we don't walk because we're aching. We're not singing because we're sad. We don't worry about time this is taking, because this right here is all we ever had. And I'm glad. Hopefully you all can hear me okay. Um, yeah, so that's the first 3 hikes. Quite the learning curve, quite the blessing, quite an honor to write about and share. And yeah, I'm on this journey traveling around with this book and trying to pass along the message of how we're all a family and how lucky we are for what we've got. I'm going to open up to questions shortly here. If anybody's, yeah, you're getting unmuted. So, and I just want to show you the book, Footprint of a Heart. If anybody's interested, it's available on my website, which is atkiddo, KIDDO.com. And I'll send you a signed copy if you're interested. And I believe it's back in stock on bookshop.org as well, if you would like to order online. But if you want to order directly from me, atkiddo.com. All right. Let's unmute everybody. Hi, Rita.
Hello. That was so lovely.
Thank you.
Yes. And let's see, there was a question in the chat I wanted to bring out for you. What was the big wow, a spiritual experience that you had on the trail that you haven't spoken about yet, but that you'd like to share?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a big one. Between through hikes, when I was 27, I was running around Many Glacier in Glacier National Park, and I was being hard on myself. I was kind of like yelling at myself, literally out loud, about all these things that I wasn't, and it was a pattern that I've had without really even being aware how much it's there. And I was going up steep hill and I was kind of losing my breath, and like my chest was getting tight, and I'm sure my face was turning red, though I couldn't see it. And I was just like, I was really like almost strangling myself with this like dialogue and this intensity. And then all of a sudden, this warm feeling washed over me. And I just felt like I had this opportunity to communicate with a future or past version of myself. And it was really like me comforting me, saying, why on earth would you ever focus on all these things that you're not, when there are so many beautiful things that you are? And that was like just like a real moment of joy and happiness. And I was like, yeah. And I turned around from this trip up the mountain and started running downhill with all of this energy, and jumping what felt like into the sky and just like springing around like a wildcat, just feeling so alive and grateful for the colors and the wildflowers. And then all of a sudden, I heard this loud voice. And I couldn't tell if it was coming from inside me or like echoing out of the land, but it seemed to like resonate and vibrate and fill my body. And the voice told me that I was beautiful. And I laid down in the grass and just felt like 1,000 hands were holding me. And I felt like I lifted into the air. I was floating, and all I could see was bright white light and this voice, "You're beautiful. Let yourself be beautiful."
Mm.
And when I came kind of back into my body, who knows when, how long that went on, I really understood it. And I understood that I'd been using distance running and through hiking as just another way to measure myself, and that I wasn't really allowing myself to see how beautiful I was. And that beauty is a powerful thing and not a problem. I grew up in in some relationships when I was a teenager that were pretty abusive, and I just really didn't think it was safe to be beautiful, or that the image of what beautiful is really didn't resonate with me either, like the societal expectation. And so my relationship to the beauty of being alive really happened then in that moment, to understand that beauty is a grace and a power and love. And yeah, it changed my relationship to my body from then forward.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know that through hiking is quite a challenge. And one of the things you have to do is make sure you feed your body with good food along the way. So what kind of support did you have on these hikes? People putting cash food for you so you could go 30 miles a day and there'd be food waiting?
Yeah, that would be nice. But more often than not, I set out with 3 to 4 days worth of food in my backpack that I either get from the grocery store, or I sometimes will send a box to a post office from, you can do it general delivery, and it'll sit for 2 weeks. And I've been blessed to have friends help with that from back home, leave them a pile of boxes, and then they'll send them out there for the first through hikes. But I no longer do the boxes because it's so much simpler to me to just find what you find at the local grocery stores. And I'm a vegan, so I have a particular sort of diet, but I've done really well with my nutrition on trail. I carry avocados and zucchini and nutritional yeast and olive oil, and I eat very well. Yeah, I thought it was a huge victory. My first Appalachian Trail hike, I lost 26 pounds. My second Appalachian Trail hike, I gained 1 pound. And that was when I realized I'm good at eating, which is important if you want to be a thru hiker.
Well, I know a phenomenal thing about your hiking is that you did not use maps or GPS.
Yeah.
Which is an extraordinary feat.
Yeah. Yep. That is the truth. I have never owned a GPS. I don't have a smartphone. I refuse to text. I'm just kind of stuck in the 90s, which is where I draw the line with technology. And so, yeah, so I did all of those hikes with maps and compass, although on the Appalachian Trail, I just carry a guidebook and I don't really need any navigational strategy beyond that, because there are white blazes that show you the whole way from Georgia to Maine. So it's pretty luxurious. Yeah. But on the CDT in like New Mexico and Colorado, I was lost all the time. One time for an entire day, I was lost. So, but it's a state of mind, because if you have everything you need on your back, if your sleeping quarters are with you and all of your meals are with you, what is lost? You're all set wherever you are.
Yes. There's a
Yeah.
beautiful David Wagner poem about lost, just to stand still, the forest will find you.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the lines.
That's
Well,
beautiful.
Christy is here and she has a question about wildlife. Did you have encounters, and specifically, what about bears?
Hi, Christy. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Many wildlife encounters and many bears. And I love bears. They're my favorite animal. I used to work at the Grizzly Wolf Discovery Center in West Yellowstone, Montana. And I've never had any problems with bears, but I have come across them many times. And my favorite time was on the Appalachian Trail, actually, walking my first hike. I was already used to bears because I lived in Montana, and I was kind of feeling extra safe because there are no grizzlies out east. And so I was hiking, and it was a muddy day, really rainy in Massachusetts. And I was watching my feet and I was being very grumpy. And I was just like, I came to this puddle that I couldn't step around. And I was like, oh, again, I have to put my foot in 12 inches of water. Fine. And I like stuck my foot in it and it made a splash. And then I heard a splash come from the other side of the puddle. This is maybe about 20 feet long. And I looked up from my foot, and on the other side, a bear looked up from her foot. And then we both made eye contact and went, and turned around and ran back into the woods and kind of like made a big loopy and then came back to face each other from further away. But then it looks like we both kind of like laughed at ourselves, shrugged it off, and kept walking. It was so amazing.
Well, there were other journeys
Yeah.
that you didn't talk about in length, but just mention the last part of the book.
Sure thing.
You went down under.
I did go down under. I did go to Australia, but my hike was in New Zealand, which was from the very tippy top of the North Island to the bitty bottom of the South Island. It's 3,000 kilometers, which is about 1,800 miles. And it's glorious and beautiful. And talk about trail magic, because New Zealanders, Kiwis as they're called, are the friendliest people I've ever met. And they treat hikers so well. And hitchhiking makes so much sense in that country. And there's huts all along the mountaintops. It really was so glorious. But in all honesty, it was the hardest of the 4 trails. It has the steepness of the Appalachian Trail. It has the desolate, remote wilderness of the CDT and like the find your own way of the CDT. It has the grandeur of the beauty after beauty after beauty of the Pacific Crest Trail. And then you add in the element of the ocean. So, and just water everywhere, like heavy rain, mud like I have never seen before. And then estuary crossings. So now you have to be on top of what the tides are doing beyond figuring out where your next resupply is and how to time your days. It's a whole different animal, but it was phenomenal, beautiful hike. And my 5th journey in Footprint of a Heart is a re-hike of the Appalachian Trail. which happened in 2021. It was sort of a reconnaissance hike, and that reading in the very beginning, Host, comes from that final hike, and just the transformation and the acceptance and, oh my gosh, like the gift of getting to be there with all of me 10 years later. It was phenomenal. And yeah, the writing from that time hopefully transposes as like the gratitude, so much gratitude to get to be out there.
Well, I really encourage people to get your book because there's so much more that you didn't have time to share with us tonight. Your writing is absolutely magical, and you bring forward your love for nature, and you're not afraid at all to tell the stories of the heartaches and the heartbreaks, and also the wonder that you hold for nature. And you hold that in your body still, even though it's been a while since you've done a big hike. It's in your essence, it's in your bones. And I just congratulate you for being who you are and continuing to share your joy in the world.
Thank you, Rita. That's such a beautiful thing to say. Thank you. It's my honor to share it.
Thank you, Rita, for bringing Shayla to share with us here at CCC. We really appreciate it. Yeah, I also get a real sense that you carry with you your experiences. And then I made a comment in the chat when you were talking about your family. I felt like it was almost like you're walking, your family's walking with you, and it seemed almost like you're even walking for them. You know, they can't be, maybe they don't walk like you do, but in supporting you, they are there with you while you're walking. I don't know if that's something you felt, but it was a sense I got as you were talking.
Absolutely. They really are so present with it. Like my mother surprised me on top of Mount Washington in my first hike and stayed with me for 3 weeks with her car. Like,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Which meant I didn't have to carry the full weight for 3 weeks. It was just a tremendous savior for her to show up at that timing. And that was when I was starting to wake up in cold sweats on my first hike. And I really feel like my mom saved my journey. I mean, it really, like, that's my whole life. Like,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. And my little brother and sister came out and hiked with me. And my mom has come out to almost every hike I've done, I think. And yeah, I've had so much of their presence with me, and I'm so lucky. And I really appreciate you saying that I get to walk with them or for them, because I almost feel like my heart is like a jersey for,
Yeah.
you know, like I walk for us.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Paradise family. Yeah.
You do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
We carry the people we love with us. So it certainly sounds like that would be the case.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm so grateful that we got to meet you. And thank you, Rita, for bringing Shayla. So Noelle always like to ask what she calls a crazy question. And I'm not sure how good I am at crazy questions, but I have one for you.
Good. Let's hear it.
Camino de Santiago. What do you have to say about it? When?
Please.
If? For those who don't know, the Camino de Santiago is a long walk, a pilgrimage in the south of Spain, I believe. And it's something that many walkers, hikers aspire to, I believe. Do you
It
know much
is.
about it? Are you
Yeah, I
are you
will hike the Camino de
will you
Santiago
do it?
someday. And that's high on my list of hopefuls. And I've done one hike across Europe through the Alps from Chamonix, France to Zermatt, Switzerland, and it was incredible.
I'm
Um,
sure.
yeah, and I look so forward to doing the Camino someday, and then I would have to save up a lot of more pennies
Yeah.
than I have been saving up for the journeys I've been doing. But
Mm.
it's you can kind of pick your distance. I think I would end up doing as much as I could, which I think could get up to 700 miles, I believe. Sorry
Mhm.
if I'm misquoting this for any Camino walkers, but there's a little bit in France and then a lot through Spain, and it's really a pilgrimage, which
Yeah.
I'm so on board with. It's really a spiritual walk. I've been
Mhm.
told by my best hiking buddy, Sarah Tide, she's like, you're gonna love it because there's coffee everywhere you stop and really good wine. And I was like, yes.
That's great.
Yes,
Well,
our neighbors just came back from walking the Camino in Spain and Portugal, and that was 302
81.
miles, 82
380.
miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
381. Yeah.
that's the same as walking east to west across Colorado. Yeah,
Mhm.
and they raved about the coffee and the croissant.
Wonderful.
oh, well, thank you again, both of you, for joining us today. And everyone knows where to find the book at kiddo.com.
Yep.
And if you order direct from Shayla, you get a signed copy.
Yeah.
I assume, is it available also at that other place if people need to get it from Amazon?
I've been trying not to make it available on Amazon because I don't like them.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
mean, I like them, but I don't like what they do.
Exactly.
So it's
So
on
it's
bookshop.org and it's on barnesandnoble.com. And trying to keep your product off Amazon is like trying to keep pee out of a swimming pool. It's just like impossible. So it still shows up on there. And I love you no matter where you like to buy your products. But I encourage people to buy it off of bookshop.org.
oh, .org. I just wrote
Yeah.
the wrong
Oh,
thing.
RG. Yep. Or for me.
Shop.org
Yeah.
or at kiddo.com.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again for joining us. And I will be rushing to your website.
You're so sweet. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Good
Thank
to see
you.
you. Yeah. And thanks for having me. It's been an honor.